What's up, guys? Welcome back to the shop. In today's video we're going to be making a set of knives, and they're going to be a matching but slightly different set of knives. And if you're a long-time viewer, you are probably already seen me make these, but these were before I was doing the voiceover, so I thought I would re-edit the video and do a voice over it. And I don't do this for every video, but this was a really cool build I did and I wanted to bring it back for you guys, so I hope you enjoy. Alright guys, here I have my two billets. One billet is going to consist of mild steel with copper, an ADCR V2 core, two more layers of copper, and another layer of mild steel. That's billet number one. Billet number two is going to consist of mild steel with two pieces of nickel silver. I've never worked with nickel silver before. Hopefully this welds properly. If not, I run out of nickel silver. Again, a piece of ADCR V2 for the core steel. Two more pieces of nickel silver, and our outside clad steel, which is going to be mild steel. Now, by this point in my knife making career, I have done plenty of copper billets, but I had never done a nickel billet, so that was going to be a first for me. And I looked up some information, and basically I just treat it like a regular forge weld. I just have to forge weld it a little bit lighter. Here I'm going with my copper billet first, and as you can see, I got the tip a little bit hotter than I needed to. So on that very first squish, it definitely splattered some, and I lost some copper there. But other than that, it ended up forge welding pretty good, or brazing since it's copper. And with that billet pretty much there, I ended up just squishing it out, getting it as wide as I can. So for this build, it was a fantasy build, so this is definitely the weirdest knives I've ever made, pretty much up to date. And just kind of just designed it off the top of my head, kind of like an anime knife I would see in an anime, or maybe I don't know how many people can relate to me, but I definitely grew up watching anime, not really much sci-fi. So these were definitely more anime inspired type daggers than anything else. So I'm pretty much just working on getting the maximum width I can for my billet so I can draw on my design. I'm not gonna be forging them to shape. These are just gonna be cut to shape. One, because you can't really forge the shape on copper, and I've never worked with nickel silver, so I'm not even sure if I can forge that out to shape either. But I haven't worked with nickel silver since then, so maybe that's something I could bring back and try again. I really did enjoy the way it looked at the end and the way the silver really popped out. It was really cool. So be sure to let me know in the comments down below if you want me to do that, and I'll be doing it. Alright guys, so here we have the two billets. This is our silver one, and this is our copper one. They're gonna get different designs. They're gonna be similar, as in similar size, but they will be getting different designs. But first I have to grind off all this outside weld, make sure the copper is sitting in the correct place, and likewise with this as well. Alright guys, so here I have roughed out the design I want on each knife. One is going to be more of a wavy pattern, while the other one is going to be straighter with some sharp edges, some notches in it. So this build is from almost 2 years. No, actually I think this build is actually over 2 years ago when I did this. I did it for the fantasy build, and during that time I was reading a manga that is called Solo Leveling that actually has an anime out right now, and the main protagonist of that show has a lot of cool daggers. So I just looked at the daggers he had, and I just drew up my own version of what I thought would be pretty cool. I'll be using a 36 grip belt, ceramic, to be able to do all my waves and all my outlines on here, as well as rip this off. I decided I'm not gonna extend it because since it's copper, it's very easy for it to just wanna peel away. So instead of doing that, we're just gonna weld some extra to it to be able to get enough tang. So pretty much the first explanation was for the other knife. This knife, on the other hand, I wanted to make something similar to a Chris sword, but I also wanted to have a curve on the end like a knife. So I ended up coming out with this because I think the waves on the Chris just look really cool, and I wanted to incorporate that into a knife. And I hadn't done that before, and I really wanted to try it. And I was happy with the way it came out, and the way that the silver followed the little wavy pattern on it as well. A lot on this build was done with grinders just because the shapes are so weird that it was just a lot easier to do a lot of the heavy stock removal with a grinder instead of with the 2x72. For the most part, this was a very challenging build, not necessarily for the materials I used, but because of the shape of the actual blade, which isn't really traditional for, especially for this channel, which I've done a lot of traditional blades. But if you read my bio, I actually like anime blades a lot, and I want to be able to do that in the future. But I want to do that once I have more machinery, because a lot of the actual anime blades are extremely weird and extremely just oddly shaped. And though I can do some right now, I can't really do what I want to do. So for the most part, I'm just learning how to actually make knives right now, and refining my skills for whenever I have more tools and more space at my disposal, then I'm really going to have a blast. For the majority of the edge profile, I ended up using a flap disc, and I use a ceramic grit disc similar to the belts that I use, and they hogged off the material very fast, and it made it pretty quick and simple for getting it ready for my final grind and my heat treat. Since these knives are very bulky at the center, I decided to go on ahead and do a lot of the finished grinding before I did my heat treat, since I really wasn't afraid of it ending up warping too much, since the center mass really holds everything in place. Alright guys, so we got the two knives here. They're hand sanded up to 220 just to get some of that out of the way before I harden it, because once I harden it, it's going to be a pain to get all those big scratches out and whatnot. So time to heat treat. For the heat treat, I ended up doing it inside a piece of square tubing. That way I had indirect heat and I didn't run the risk of having too much forge scale or decarb on the actual blade. And as you can see from whenever I pulled it out, it was a pretty good successful heat treat, and I love the look of the steel once it comes out. Alright guys, so we are out of the temper. These things are looking great. Just check out that color. So now time to hand sand them again and get them ready for their etching process. Alright guys, so the pieces are hand sanded. Alright, so now we're going to work on the guard. This is the design I have come up with. I'm going to be making it out of this mild steel, and it doesn't look much like anything yet, but once I'm done, you're gonna see I'm gonna be doing a lot of curving and twisting on this. Well, maybe not twisting, but curving to give it the ideal shape that I want. Let's cut it out. So for these guards, I had a very intricate and very cool looking idea in my head that for some reason I could not put to paper or to steel very well. So I was short on time as well, so I ended up just running with it. I'm not particularly happy with the way it came out, but it did look pretty cool. It did look kind of plain to me, so I ended up doing a little bit of bends here and there and kind of roughing it up to make it look a little bit more older, more worn out. But if you know, we do challenges pretty much once or twice a year with a whole bunch of knife makers, and this was one of those challenges. And as I am a procrastinator, I like to push everything to the last minute. So I really didn't have much time to finish this and to finish the knife and edit the video. So I ended up doing this very last minute. Alright, so I have both my guards ready. They're been fitted one to each of the knives. So now I'm going to forge them and bend them and do what I got to do. And with that, guys, our guards are almost done. I still have to clean them up on the wire wheel and gun blue them. But that's where we're going to stop there for now. Alright, so now let's talk about handles. I have some Paduk here and I have some maple. That's what we're going to be using to make our handles. One handle will be Paduk and the other one will be maple. So, funny story for the handles on this build. This wasn't going to be my original choice for handle material. and I ended up using what I had here in stock at the house. But I had ordered some pieces that somehow got lost in the travel, and so I didn't have them on time for the actual build. I had a stabilized blue burl handle material and a stabilized red burl handle material. So I ended up using some Paduke and some maple that I had there in stock. I was gonna dye the maple into a bluish color, but I just wasn't feeling it. So I ended up just going this route. The end result was pretty nice, but I think I could have also done better in the shaping of my handles. They were kind of a mix between a Coke bottle handle and just kind of just a little bit longer than they needed to be. And at that time, I didn't really know any better. I wasn't really good at handles. I can make all kinds of different materials when it came to forging, but handles I really lacked on. I'd like to say I've gotten better on handles, and I can do different shapes and different styles compared to what I used to do. But overall, I'm very happy with the progress I've made since then. And I still love the color of Hadouk and how beautiful and blood red it gets. For the maple, it looked a little bland. It did have some cool figuring in there, some cool ring pattern. Alright guys, so we have all our pieces together. These guys are pretty much done. These guys, I'm gonna gun blue them, and these need etching. So my original intent with these builds was to actually have a fire and ice theme to it. That's why I had a blue and a red handle. And I was actually going to look into how to make the copper in my knife more of a reddish tint. But I ran out of time and I wasn't able to go that route, unfortunately. But I do know how to do it now. So if you want to see me make a crimson copper knife, definitely let me know in the comments down below. And I'll be working on that. Alright guys, while the knives darken up in the coffee, I'm gonna finish off the guards. They have a rough finish to them, that's how I want them. And I'm gonna first clean them up with some acetone, and then I'm gonna gun blue them. Since previously I brought up that I didn't really like the guard, one thing I did like about the guard was when I bent everything forward, I was thinking about it would act almost like a catch. So let's say another weapon hits it and glides across the edge, I could catch it with that little spike coming up, and it would help me from actually getting, you know, cut on my thumb or cut on the top of my hand. I thought that was pretty cool. Alright guys, so I learned my lesson from the last one, and I taped up anything that can get dirty because I definitely made a mess. And that's pretty much it for this build. I don't think I recorded a cut test or paper cut test on these guys, but I definitely did have a lot of fun making them, and I think they turned out pretty cool. I love the look of the mild steel on there, that dullish gray with the copper and the nickel silver. I think it looked pretty cool, and I definitely had a blast building them. So as always guys, thank you very much for watching. I greatly appreciate it, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.